Okay, so here we are with Mauro, who is the hotel photographer, and he's an expert on photography of hotels worldwide and works for a large number of chains. And today I've got Mauro here to tell us a little bit about why people should take photos to promote their property and what sort of photos they should take. So Mauro, why do you think people need to take better photos?
Well, photos are very important in this day and age, and the internet is such an important marketing tool for most of the properties that I work with. First of all, when people are booking a hotel room here in Australia, I know that most of the time, and it's close to 85% of the time, they book a room according to what they see on the internet. This is a very crucial thing for people booking their rooms. It might be executive assistants or the corporate people themselves, or might be travelers, just leisure people. They will book their rooms according to what they see on the internet. So a room shot is absolutely important and critical for them to choose where they're going to stay.
And what's a good room shot? What sort of elements would you find in a good room photo, particularly for Australians travelling perhaps to overseas to a tropical destination? What would they look for?
This is a very important thing. I've learned on the last few years, since moving to Australia, that Australian guests are very big on a few things. Number one thing that is very important for Australian guests to book a room is the space. So the size of the room is a must-have for Australian guests. Second thing that influences very much most of the guests booking a hotel room is natural daylight. They don't want to see rooms that look like they were staged or they were produced in a Hollywood way just to sell. They want to see things that look natural, that look real, because that's the culture here in Australia. Well, for some hotels in other parts of the world that I work with, this is not really what we would go for, but for Australian guests, that's pretty much the way you should go.
And internally in the room, what sort of things would they see in the photo? What sort of other things should I see there? Obviously the bed is important to people.
Yeah, of course, bed size and the way housekeeping leaves the room after it's done. So, you know, I don't want to see creases on the doona cover. I don't want to see belly arranged or disorganized pillows on top of the bed. I want to see as little as possible of cords, PowerPoints, you know, things that don't really make any more glamorous the room. I want to see good space. I want to see beautiful natural daylight. If possible, a view. If you don't have the right view for that specific room, be honest. Show the view that you've got, because Australian guests will most of the time ask and check exactly what they have in their photos. So if they arrive at your room and the view is not exactly what they saw when they booked it, they will complain. And this is a bad experience. Most of the hotel managers come to me now and they say, don't worry about showing what is not there. Just show the real thing. Show the view exactly as we have. No lies, no fantasy, just show what it is.
And what other sort of design elements can I put in a room to make it look a bit better? What sort of things can I do to make it look nicer?
Well, most of the time the simple things will make a nice touch to a room. But, you know, it's very basic. Curtains, and it's big now. Most of the hotel rooms want to show that they have flat screen TVs. So it started with 32 inches TVs. Now the big ones want to show 85 inches TVs. Okay, this is a plus, but that's not the reason why you go to a hotel room. You don't go there just to be watching TV. But, you know, show things that might bring you the idea of comfort, that might be your home away from home. That's a very big thing for most of the Australian guests. They want to have the experience that they normally wouldn't have at home. They want to see something different, something that might be exotic, or might be more adventurous, or might be some even tranquil, a different experience of what they have in their own routine. That is something very important. Some lighting on the bedside tables, you know, the basic stuff is always important to show, but it's not a must. The overall look of the room is the most important thing. Show that it's clean, well done, housekeeping has done a good work, and you have natural daylight and space. That's basically it.
Now, for a property, what would be a reasonable selection of photographs that I'd have? I'd have a room photograph. What other sort of photos could I have?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Recently, not just the room is an important thing to show. 10 years ago, I wouldn't even think of taking photos of the bathrooms, but most of the guests now and travel agents want to see photos of what the bathrooms look like. If they're new, if they have been refurbished, if they have bathtubs for Japanese guests or Australian guests. I don't think they're so much into bathtubs, but they want to see what style is in your bathroom. This is an important thing. There is a lot of concern about special needs bathrooms and special needs rooms and apartments for people with some kind of disability. This has grown up a lot here in Australia. Something that is also important is your first contact with the guest is your reception, so the lobby. So it is very important to show a pleasant shot with people. That's probably the only shot I would never have without any people. You have to have staff when you're showing a reception shot. You got to be able to see that there is someone waiting for you to arrive. It's a personal thing. It's about service. It's not about just the architecture of the place. You have to show some warmth, show the faces of the people. This is very important. This is something that most of the time will make a big difference. Well, all the facilities, let's say the F&B outlets, as many as you have, different times of the day, swimming pool, a day spa, everything that you can offer that is already in your property. If you have a golf course, why not show it? It's part of a lifestyle. It's part of the experience that the guests will have. And this will make a difference. Most of the time, even on the rates, we'll be able to practice. I ask all the time if the view makes a difference on the rate. Of course, a waterfront view and a city view has different prices. But everything else that is attached to your stay is very important to show. An exterior shot of the property is good. That's probably what is going to be in most of the directories. They will have a shot of an exterior view of your hotel or your resort, and this is what will be consider your hero shot. This is a very important thing for you to always think about, to see what is the shot that defines your property, that makes your property different to the other ones. This is a very important thing to think about.
Now, lots of people ask me the question of, should I have customers or people pretending to be customers in my shots, or should I just show an empty room? And it must be hard if you've got different types of customers, perhaps Chinese customers, Indian customers, or Aussie customers, because should I show types of people that I'm marketing to? So should I have different sets for different types of markets?
This is a very controversial question, actually. My opinion is that yes, we should always show people in the shots as much as possible in a very natural environment. Most of the time, I will try to convince my clients or most of the brands that I work with to have the people in the shots, but in a very natural, very organic, almost editorial type of shots. This is a very important thing to be aware of. Not to have shots where you have people staged like they were posing for the photo. It doesn't really sell. That's my opinion. But that's a decision that at the end of the day comes to the owner of the property or to the marketing manager of the property. Most of the time, the ones that work pretty well are the shots that we're not really worried about selling anything or marketing anything. Just a kid with a big smile looking at the camera, enjoying time at the pool, or a couple enjoying a walk. Nothing really staged. You can plan a photo shoot with these elements, but you have to try to have them in a very organic way, something that doesn't look staged, for them to see themselves, or how can I say that? The guest has to be able to identify himself, to be able to relate to that person in the shot. So I would like to be that person that I'm seeing on the photo, even on a room shot, which is a very hard shot, but a day spa, how many shots do we have of girls or women having a treatment on a day spa with oil and rocks and things like that, or a massage? It's not that hard just to make people really relate to that. Everyone would like to be experimenting that kind of thing. That's a good way to go.
Fantastic. And so the things then that we're looking for, how long do you think a photograph should be before it's reshot? What's the sort of use by for a photograph? Because clearly if you put some people in there and those people go out of style, and they're not as good looking as they used to be, then I can tell that this is an old photograph. So what's really the length of time that a photo needs to be reshot?
I agree. This is one thing you want to avoid as much as possible. You don't want your guests or your potential guests to think that your hotel looks tired. So fashion changes pretty quick, and even the expressions, everything changes very quick these days. The cycles that I'm learning here in Australia and basically around Asia Pacific is 2 years. 2 years is probably the longest cycle, and by then you should be thinking of refreshing your images. Well, I've met hotel owners that have images that have been there for 25 years, and I ask them, well, wouldn't you like to change your image? And they come to me and they say, why would I need? I've been having these images for 25 years and I'm happy with that. But the question is, are your guests happy seeing those images? The photographer doesn't have to be happy. The owner doesn't have to be happy, but the potential guests have to see them and to be able to relate to those images. So 2 years is normally the cycle that I have here in Australia. And when you talk about different destinations or different countries that could be your guests, we in Australia, we have campaigns directed specifically to all different destinations. So if that specific resort is very strong on Singaporean guests, we will make a lifestyle photo shoot with types and people that will resemble or will be originally from Singapore, because people will then relate. Costumes are different, color combinations are different, some habits are different. There's a whole lot of things that you have to think about. Australians are very peculiar about a lot of things as well, and that's very important to be aware of.
Okay, so what sort of thing do you think Aussies really look for in the photographs then? What are the things that are going to really attract an Aussie? You mentioned a couple there, the natural light, the space and the size. Is there anything else that they should do to make it attractive to Aussies?
I think Australians are very open to experimenting new things. The exotic, like if I'm saying about Samoa, well, I think the exotic is the world. It's something that they don't have the chance to have on their daily life. Their routine is totally far away from this way of life, or the exotic, where you have the palm trees on the beach, where you have great service. Actually, this is one of the things that I think Australians really appreciate. When you come to a property, to a resort or a hotel, and the service is absolutely impeccable. You know, we don't have that in Australia because it's a different culture. So the ratio between people serving and people served is different. So probably the ratio between guests and serving is 1 guest to, or 10 guests to 1 people serving you. I know in places like Bali, for example, you have a different relation between the number of the two sides. But it's an impressive thing that how Australians like to be served and pampered, you know, to be treated like kings. And it doesn't really take a lot of things to make people feel like they are treated like kings.
So you've been doing lots of work with different hotel chains, Mauro. Just tell us a little bit about some of the chains that you've worked for and things. What are some of the ones that are really enjoying your photography?
Well, one of the groups that I have to say that I've been enjoying a lot working here in Australia for a long time is called Toga. They have 4 different brands, and for each brand, they have a different approach. When it comes to photography, we have different ways of shooting exactly what their guests need. I think it's a fantastic experience to be able to shoot with a client like this and to be able to build this history for such a long time, because you end up really understanding how it works for them, and it is a very pleasant experience. Recently I started doing a job for a vacation resort group called Wyndham. They have 7,000 properties around the world, and they just bought 1 new property here in Phillip Island, close to Melbourne. It has been a wonderful experience. So starting from scratch and learning exactly what they want to show and what they want to sell to their markets, it's an amazing experience. I love that kind of thing. It's really what makes me wake up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun goes up and shoot all day long until the sun goes down. So this is quite an interesting thing to do.
Now, one of my beliefs for people that they should have the best photos for their properties, because I think there's a bit of a competition out there. If I go onto now the portals and the websites in Australia like Last Minute or What If or Expedia or any of those places where I'll see hotels, clearly I'm comparing different hotels, and I understand people look at the photos. Is that right, Mauro? They compare the photos, and if your photos aren't good enough,
Absolutely,
you don't get the sale.
I think photos are extremely important. Of course, rates are very important. Of course, people will not choose between a $150 and a $10,000 just by looking at the photo. Of course, the rate that the hotels and resorts will practice is a very important thing when it comes to making a decision. But at the end of the day, different images will have different appeals. So I like the word of, when it comes to room shots, I love the word sexy. Not sexy in a very dirty way, but in a selling way, like making things look really nice with the elements that you have, and that's at the end of the day what a photographer has to be able to do. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-star hotel or a 1-star hotel. I have the obligation to make it look fantastic. It has to look $1 million, whatever and wherever it is. It has to look absolutely perfect and beautiful and enticing to make people book their vacations, or could be a corporate experience, a convention or a function. Well, at the end of the day, this is a very important thing for them to choose where they're going to stay. But probably the extra point, the thing that I think most of the time will sell and convince people is if you're showing an image of your hotel with the most honest possible way. This is a very important thing. Other markets that I work for, especially in the Americas, people don't mind showing over-the-top photoshopped images. So a lot of post-production work in the computer, and it changes the room so much that you almost lose the original image and you don't really relate to what it was originally. I think here in this region, in the Southeast Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, it is very important that you show the utmost real and honest shot that you can, especially when it comes to the room shot.
Now, the other big thing that's moving at the moment is the video marketing. Where do you think people should be going with video marketing for their property? And have you seen people asking for videos now?
Yeah, people are starting to ask me a lot of times to do videos. Of course, videos are one thing that could work on the internet, could not. The thing is, most of the time people don't have 30 seconds or even 15 seconds to watch a video on the internet. If you can't have the attention of your guests for 15 seconds, that's what you have to use for. So 15 seconds, I would say, is probably enough for you to show one very nice experience, one activity that you can run in your resort or your hotel, a cooking experience or cooking lessons, or a couple having a nice time at a honeymoon or things like that, that show the emotion, that show the experiences that these guests are really having. This is the most important thing. If you can capture that on a video, I think that's a very important and very strong selling point to your brand.
So Mauro, what you're telling me then is that the eyes do the buying and the photographs are really, really important. And you're also telling me now that the new thing with videos is the emotions, and to get that emotion really, really quickly across in a set of videos as well. So they're the things that people are looking for.
It is very important.
Now,
I think everything related to images.
Now, if people want to get in touch with you, where should they go to see some of your work and the sort of things that you're doing? What websites are you on?
Thanks for asking that. And my website is www.hotelphotographer.com.au. It's a very easy website for you to find. There's probably covering most of the areas that I shoot in the hospitality industry. So it goes from rooms, conference spaces, exterior shots, swimming pools, everything related to telling a story about a hospitality property, a hotel and a resort. They're all there. I've been specializing in this for the last few years, probably almost 13 years now. And it has been a great experience to be able to tell these stories for many of the brands that I work for.
And what do you think is the biggest mistakes that a hotel property might make in photography? What do you think the biggest mistakes that you've seen? Clearly 25 years is a bit old for photos, but what are some of the other biggest mistakes you see?
Yes, I think, well, when it comes to being lazy about the image of your brand, the image of your property, that's an unforgivable mistake. This is one thing you have to be on top of it every single day. Especially with things like TripAdvisor, the rating and the ranking changing every day. It is an amazing thing how the response of the guests writing reviews can change the way people see your property. So this is one thing we should always be aware of. If I was a property owner or a general manager or a marketing manager, this is one thing I would be taking care of every day. This is something that you cannot let go, and you cannot allow yourself to be lazy about that. You have to be able to show your brand and show your property the best possible way every day. Maybe bringing new content, showing, well, you're going to be a local cultural festival or a golf tournament in your place, or something specific that you already do, but you have to be able to show that in the best possible way to your guests.
Cool. Thank you very much, Mauro. That's a fantastic effort and some fantastic advice there. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Mauro.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure.